Hey everybody, good afternoon. It's been a few days, not a lot going on in Seahawks land, and, well, there's no other way to put it other than I have felt like garbage for the last couple days. So, took a break from making the videos, which wasn't surprising anyway. It's June, it's the slowest time of the year for football fans, but we now have a little something going on. Something that's a little more interesting than just idle random stuff that happens over the course of NFL offseason, something that might actually mean something. And I'm not saying that it definitely does, but I think we need to make sure we're aware of this. So the Seattle Seahawks and DK Metcalf have been in a little bit of a peaceful tango this offseason because it was Metcalf's Metcalf could now hold out for a contract extension. You can do so after your third year in the NFL, and there was every reason to believe that the team was looking to extend him and that he was looking to get extended. Metcalf showed up to the optional OTAs. Metcalf showed up to the optional mini camps. Seemed like everything was cool, which was interesting because the other big time fourth year receivers who are due an extension, like A.J. Brown, who eventually got traded, Debo Samuel, and Terry McLaurin, did not. So Metcalf was showing up to these optional mini camps to, a lot of people theorized, tried to sink his teeth into the role of being a leader on the team now that Wilson's gone and Wagner's gone, and it's a new era of Seahawks football. Well, now things are starting to heat up a little bit. So DK Metcalf did not appear at Seahawks camp this week. And it's a 3-day camp, and for every day that Metcalf is not present, he is fined $31,000. So it has been said that the absence is unexcused, which means that the fines will be implemented. And I assume that the team may consider waiving those fines down the line if they get their business done. But we all know that waiving fines like that has gotten harder in recent years. The NFL is trying to crack down on players doing holdouts, trying to crack down on players not showing up in order to get contract extensions. So I don't even know if that's a possibility anymore. So Metcalf has chosen to not show up for a mandatory camp and is now actually getting fined for it, which indicates to a lot of people, and I include myself among those people to a certain extent, that this is maybe starting to get a little bit, I don't want to say scary, but it's starting to get a little more serious in terms of getting this deal done. So it's too early to say if this is really that bad of a thing. It's too early to say whether or not this indicates a budding problem between the player and the organization. But we've been down this path before with high profile players and the Seahawks, especially in recent years. And I think there is a little bit of an impression with some people, and I know where it comes from, that this organization can be a little bit cheap. This organization can hold out for a tiny scrap of savings, that this organization can decide, you know what, I don't, we're not going to play ball with this contract extension because we just don't think we just don't think you're worth that, even though the market, even though the other similar players in the league are getting paid like that. So I don't know what Metcalf might be looking for in terms of an extension. This tweet specifically says there's been no major traction on that front yet, but I hope that this team was not planning for Metcalf to be okay playing out the fourth year of his deal. Some people have theorized that maybe we're scared because of the foot injury, which I guess is possible. With what I know about the injury, which obviously is not as much as some doctors, it doesn't seem like something that should be a long-term concern, but it's certainly on the table. But at the end of the day, here's my thing. When you decided to not trade DK Metcalf before or during the draft, you were kind of marrying yourself to having to extend him. So the fact that we got past the draft without dealing him, and if this ends up turning into a thing where he actually does hold out, where he actually doesn't play, where he actually gets alienated from the team, that's not good. That's something that is extremely avoidable. So I hope that this doesn't blow up into a big thing. The fact that Metcalf is apparently getting fined by the organization does indicate that it's at least something. But look, I don't, like I said, I don't know what Metcalf is asking for in terms of money, but I can pretty much promise you, based off the way he's played and based off what other players at his position, at his level of production, are getting paid, it's probably more or less fair. And I don't know why you want to drag this out into July or August just to save $2 or $3 million. And that's probably all you're going to be able to save. A.J. Brown already got his contract. And A.J. Brown, you want to say that Metcalf has bad hands. A.J. Brown, I mean, he makes DK Metcalf look like Larry Fitzgerald sometimes with his hands. So he got $25 million a year. That's what it costs for these receivers. And if you didn't want to pay that price, the time to trade him was during or before the draft. So the fact that you didn't decide to do that then means you are, to a certain extent, married to making an extension with him now. You can't trade him now because you don't know what pick you're going to get next year, because the team you trade him to, you don't know where they're going to be. You don't know what kind of record they're going to have. So you're not going to get good value. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that this team, whether or not it ends up working out, did show commitment to their plan when they traded Wilson, right? They showed commitment to the plan. They had an idea. They were like, you know what? This isn't working. Let's get Wilson out of here. Whether or not it works out or not, that is a commitment to the plan. But being wishy-washy on something like this, where with Metcalf you don't want to trade him, but you also don't want to extend him, it reminds one of what the team was doing during the previous years before this Wilson trade, where they didn't want to trade Wilson, but they also didn't want to go all out to build around him. They didn't want to spend big free agency dollars, but they also weren't willing to blow it up, so they just dangled around in the middle for years. A team that wasn't that good, but a team that was good enough to win more than they lost and make fans believe that, hey, if this goes our way, that goes our way, that goes our way, this could be the year. We just need all these things to go in our favor, and we're good to go. So if we're trying to fence sit on Metcalf, I don't like that. That reminds me of the stuff they were doing during Wilson's basically Wilson's entire third contract in Seattle, where they were like, okay, we've got this guy, we think he's really good, but we don't think he's good enough to build around, so we're not really going to go all in. We're just going to like bob around in the middle. You know, we're going to sell out all our home games because we're going to be good enough to do that, but we're not really going to go all out to build a Super Bowl winner. And we're also not going to blow it up because blowing it up is scary, and we don't want to lose the interest of our season ticket holders. So pick a side. And I think it's too late to trade him. The window to trade him was during the draft. And honestly, with what we saw A.J. Brown go for, which was a first-round pick and basically a fourth-round pick because the third-round pick was a compensatory pick, I didn't want to trade him. That compensation is nowhere near good enough for me for Metcalf. If that's the best you can do, then I'd rather just keep him. But you actually have to keep him. So we'll keep an eye on this situation as it goes on for the next, presumably, couple of weeks. But if you have decided to commit to him, which I believe that you have, you got to make that full commitment. This is what players cost in the NFL right now. It is what it is. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.